It was the early 1400s. The Moors had been on a rapid decline due to division, internal strife, and attacks by Christian forces. After King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel united their Spanish kingdoms, they took over Muslim Spain with ease. The year was 1492, and it had been 800 years since Spain had been ruled by non-Muslims. That same year, an Italian explorer named Christopher Columbus pleaded before the king and queen, wishing to embark on a voyage to India, China, and Japan for the purpose of finding a new route, which could be a means of trade and riches such as silk and spices. However, the king and queen had little faith in him and sent him with the worst of ships and a crew consisting of released prisoners who knew little to nothing about the sea. No one could ever imagine what Columbus would discover. Though Columbus would never make it to Asia, he led to a much more important discovery, the New World, also known as the Americas. Though Columbus never actually stepped foot in the New World, he did step foot on the coast of Haiti. According to the crew's priest, Bartolomé de las Casas, Columbus's initial reaction after seeing the hospitable inhabitants of the region was, "These people are so friendly, they would make wonderful slaves." Just like that, Columbus and his men would soon turn slavery into a world enterprise. The Columbian exchange would now begin. Crops, animals, ideas, food, populations, and even diseases would be exchanged between the New World and the Old World. The Native Americans had never been used to disease or flus, and so, when the Europeans arrived with influenza and smallpox, it caused 90% of the native population to die. Then, in the early 1600s, European superpowers such as Spain, France, and England began colonizing. North America's resources had a part in the profit made from the New World. However, plantations became the backbone of the economy. At the time, Africa was in chaos. Its kingdoms were in constant war and enslaving each other. It is important to note that Africa had many nationalities, ethnicities, languages, cultures, and traditions. They had many differences and saw one another as outsiders. Thus, the constant warfare wasn't a case of internal strife. On top of that, the continent of Africa had been afflicted by malaria and yellow fever. Africans were familiar with diseases and flus, unlike Indians, and so enslavers found that they were the perfect option. Now began the triangular trade, a trade which sent African slaves to the Americas, sugar, coffee, tobacco, and cotton from America to Europe, and textiles, rum, and other manufactured goods from Europe to Africa. Since Africans were in war, slavery was widespread, as captured prisoners were made slaves. Thus, it was not deemed betrayal when those slaves were sold to Europeans. However, once the warfare came to an end, the cycle of African enslavement too was coming to an end. Though, the colonies could not afford this, and began forcing West Africans to kidnap Central Africans and bring them to enslavers to send them to the New World. This may have seemed like a terrible treachery committed by West Africans. However, it was done at gunpoint. The advantage of this method was that enslavers were kidnapping people who did not understand the area's language or geography and had very limited chances of escaping, and so a diaspora would soon occur. The first European country to begin the African diaspora was Portugal. After Portugal, Britain, France, Germany, and Brazil would follow. The latter would import slaves at an overwhelming rate, as a total of 5 million slaves would be brought in by them in a total of just 15 years. Between the year 1500 and 1866, roughly about 12.5 million enslaved Africans would be forcibly transported to the Americas through the Middle Passage, and about 1.8 million of whom died due to their terrible conditions and were thrown into the Atlantic. Up until the year 1820, 5 times as many Africans crossed the Atlantic as did the Europeans. The world would be changed forever, and it all happened because of the expedition of Christopher Columbus, that same expedition that no one had faith in.